Better.
Good morning.
Good
Good
morning.
morning, all.
Welcome.
This is October 9th, 2022, and we're so happy to have you all join us today. We're talking about in the flow of life. And I'm going to begin with an opening prayer, writing by Ernest Holmes. It is entitled, God Lives in Me and Enlarges My Life. This life within me, being God, did not begin and it cannot end. Hence, I am immortal and eternal. I can never be less, but must forever be more myself. As this life within me unfolds through my experience, through my gathering of knowledge and accumulation of wisdom, I recognize omnipresent good. I acknowledge it. I prosper in all my affairs. Perfect success is mine. All the mistakes I have ever made are wiped out. And today, the business of living is the activity of God within me. Giving, I receive, and receiving, I give out again, thus increasing the divine bounty that meets me at every turn. God within me creates every circumstance and situation I have ever experienced. They are the fruits of my thought. By my thinking and right use of this law of liberty, I allow my imagination to enlarge my experience. The life principle within me responds with greater abundance, harmony, and good flowing to me. Like a horizon where the earth and sky appear to meet, this apparent end continually opens up a wider expanse to me. This is my concept of God, the unlimited creator of all experience. God lives in me and enlarges my life. And so it is.
Beautiful.
So I want to begin with the basic idea of our talk today, which is that God is here in the center of us. God is within us. And it's always flowing out. Its creativity and its ideas and its love for us are always flowing from the center out. And the only thing that stops your good, my good, is my own impedance. If you think about electricity, it just flows. But depending on what it's flowing through, like we like a copper wire because it has less to restrict,
Less resistance.
less resistance. And so we do that too. We have resistance to the good that's flowing through us, from us. And they're with thoughts and ideas like, I'm not enough. I don't know how. Good things don't happen to me. I don't know why I never have enough. That's all impedance to
Those
the
are all my
good.
those are all my
Excuse
questions.
me. That's our impedance to the flow of good or God
Hmm.
from us. So it's a core concept because we're raised with the idea that God is out here somewhere, and we pray to God to please help us. Our metaphysical idea is no, God is within us, and we need to just experience that and let it flow. And Bob came up with a wonderful analogy of that. We were watching a nature program about plants and getting their
Right.
needs met.
Well, actually, you were talking about this, and a visual just jumped out and grabbed me, and it does reflect a program we also saw in nature. The unusual things that happen in nature, the unexpected, the outrageously impossible things that happen in nature that just is how nature works. But the idea that I had was a flower. A flower is rooted in the ground. It's actually rooted in darkness, and it grows in darkness and it moves from darkness to light. But it does this from a self-actualized, self-realized potential, not from something outside calling it. It knows from within to reach and to stretch and to embrace the universe. The other thing that's really interesting is the flower that blossoms doesn't ever leave its location. It doesn't go somewhere to get what it wants. We often believe that we have to go someplace to get what we want. We have to change our mind, change the
Be in the
conditions,
right
be
place
in the
at the
right
right
place with the
time.
right people. And what the flower does is the flower simply has in its being everything that's necessary, and everything that is required for it to live will come to it. It has the right fragrance, it has the right colors, it has the right shape. But the flower in particular that struck me as I was thinking about this was a flower that I saw some time back growing from the sidewalk between two cracks in the sidewalk.
Well, I mean, one crack.
Well, it was, two.
One crack.
That's right. Now that I
One
think
crack.
about it, there was just one. See, without Judith, I wouldn't be able to do this. I would be stuck on two cracks, and there's only one crack. Okay. Through this one crack, Judith, thank you for sharing. This flower was coming through, and I thought for a second, you poor thing. And the flower spoke back to me, because flowers usually talk to me, and said, there's nothing poor about me. I am supported by two solid sides that protect me, and I get everything I need from this one crack. The water flows through, I'm nurtured, I'm nourished, and I blossom and I flower. And I thought, isn't it interesting? If a flower can grow between a crack in the sidewalk and flourish, why do I think I have to go someplace else to get my good? But the message in this is that our good comes from within. Everything we need, when we talk about the law of attraction, we're talking about that which is attracted to us will come to us, not what we have to go out and get. We often think that the law of attraction is meaning I have to be in a position to go get what I need, and I'll attract that to me. Well, the attraction is things will come to you. The bees and the flower and everything that's necessary, including the rain. And if it doesn't, it will die. And if it dies, it is because it wasn't where it needed to be. It didn't have what it needed to have, and it will be born again as something different. It's not over. It's simply, it experiences what it experiences. If it's well nourished and well loved and well cared for, because nature does that, it will have a long and fulfilling life. And if it isn't, it won't. And it will learn what it needs to learn, and it will go and be something different. So, but I think it's a powerful metaphor for us to hold. Think about where you're rooted and ask yourself, how, how could I embrace this place that I am, rather than thinking that if I were just someplace else, things would be better. If I just had something else, things would be better. What I believe to be true is when you can have where you are be enough and be wonderful and something to celebrate, wherever you are, that goes with you. And if you are not able to do that, wherever you are won't be exactly what you want. We went on a cruise, and I, the critic goes with me. So we get on the ship, and I'm looking at the ship, and I'm thinking, okay, this is great. We went to the room that we were going to be in, and my first assessment of the room, or my first reaction to the room, was an assessment of whether it was big enough, whether it was the room that I would have chosen. Well, and I thought, isn't it interesting? I'm not on the boat. I'm in my assessment of the room that's on the boat. If we're
And
not,
they're all small.
and yeah, exactly. But there was somebody else on another deck that had a porch,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
A balcony.
But it's so easy to live in the assessment of life, to live in the projection of what it might be like were it to be the way you wanted it to be, as opposed to living in the world that you're actually in and saying, wow, look at this. This is incredible. Last but not least, I saw a picture on Facebook, which is it just blew me away. This large dog mat or large dog bed, really big dog bed, and a little cat laying in the middle of the dog bed, and a large dog laying on the floor next to the mat. And that was because, of course, the dog knew that he wasn't going to have anything to do with this bed because the cat had it. What was so interesting to me, though, was the dog was all stretched out, absolutely comfortable, sleeping and enjoying himself on the floor, while the cat was enjoying himself sleeping on this very, very large dog bed designed for a Great Dane, which was the Great Dane laying on the floor. Neither of them were saying, the cat could have said, it'd be nice if I could have had my own bed, my own size. And the dog could have said, I'm not going to go to sleep here until I get my bed back. But instead, they both seemed to be able to figure out that this is where they were, this is where they needed to be, this is where they were rooted, and they could live with it, they could work with that, and they were fine.
So when we talk about being in the flow, we're talking about abundance in our lives. And that's an abundance of everything. Money's included in that. That's part of our abundance and prosperity. We want an abundance of love, abundance of creative expression. We just want abundance of all good in our lives. And Ernest Holmes has a quote saying, "There is nothing that life could possibly withhold from its creation, since it has poured its imagination and thought and feeling into everything and spilled it over. The ocean of life is forever flowing. We could just as well dip a gallon of water instead of a pint from it." So, that's what we're talking about, is looking at our impedance and how we can how we can enlarge it or get rid of our impedance or stop our
That
limited
that which
thinking.
impedes us,
Yeah.
or the resistance we're having to life.
So you came up with a wonderful quote that
Yeah,
that
yeah.
encapsulates what I want to talk about
When
now.
Judith is talking, a lot of times I'll just be listening, and all of a sudden, boom, and I think, oh, this is so good. Sometimes we have to go without in order to be able to go within. And I
Exactly.
thought, oh my God, I needed to hear this, and it's probably why I did hear it. But we need to be able to go without the worry, to go without the judgment, to go without the assessment, to go without the if things were different, the conditions. We need to go without sometimes also the things that we want to have in our life, that we think we need to have in our life in order to discover what is in our life, what is available. When I go outside, I give up the inside. I give up the interior. I give up the air conditioning. But I also get the mockingbirds, and I get the trees, and I get the breeze, and I get all of what nature has to offer. And so I have to be willing to step out of where I am to step into a place that I want to be. We have to go without sometimes. How many of you have had to go without a lot of the things you wanted because you were saving for something that you thought was important that you needed to have in your life? How many of you have had children and made sacrifices for the children, sacrifices in sleep, sacrifices in abundance financially and everything else to take care of your children so that they could prosper? And how was that for you when you learned and saw how they progressed and how they developed and how much you had put into them that was coming back to you?
Well, I'm going to enlarge on that a little bit. But first, I want to share a quote by Rainer Rilke. And he said, he's not with us anymore, but he said, go into yourself and see how deep the place is from which your life flows. And, when I read that and then Bob's statement about you have to go without sometimes to go within, I never would have sought the solace and the peace and the joy that I found in meditation by going within if I hadn't had an exterior experience of a lot of pain.
Mm.
I was seeking peace of mind. I was seeking love, joy, and I found it in meditation. And that's what he's talking about by go within, get in touch with that place within you from which flows all the good of God. Because there you will find peace no matter what is going on in your life, no matter how miserable you may be at the moment, you can go within and all is well. As a matter of fact, sometimes I hear that word, all is
Yeah.
well, that phrase.
Many, 10 years ago or more, I guess, when I got a knee replacement, I wasn't happy with the one I had. I needed a new one, so I got a new one. But I'm laying in the hospital bed, and the nerve block that they give you so that you won't feel pain had gone away. And so, since
Disappeared,
I
huh?
no longer had the nerve block, I was laying in bed at 2 o'clock in the morning. There's no amount of medication that I could get at this point with just huge amounts of pain. And I thought, I can't tolerate this. So, now, needless to say, I had already gotten some morphine, which was kind of making me foggy. But what I did was I was able to get my Photoshop active. I closed my eyes and I'm in Photoshop, and I'm dragging the pain over to the right off the screen and dragging the pain off the screen, and the pain diminished as I did that. A nurse finally came in and I said, oh, don't go over there. That's where the pain is. Needless to say, I was in an altered state, but I had been able to use Photoshop in my mind to, because I work in Photoshop all the time, to move the pain from my body over to that side of the screen or that side of the room. And she looked at me rather strangely, and I said, hey, it's my leg. But what's interesting is the imagination that is available and the creativity that's available when we're not locked into this is the only way it can be. When you can change your mind and change even the things in your mind. What if we did that, and we do that with our health, with our prosperity, with everything in our lives? What if we imagine that we are full and complete even when we can't understand or necessarily explain it?
Right. And this is a complicated topic
Hmm.
because we talk about the need to not impede the flow, and yet there's the also very important thing you need to do, which seems to be the opposite, but it's like to accept what is right here, right now.
Hmm.
It's very important to accept what is to be able to allow more. In other words, not liking and hating your circumstance doesn't help.
Hmm.
It hurts. It keeps the good from flowing. So it seems like opposites that we're talking about to accept what is, and then visualize and appreciate more. But they're both important. Eckhart Tolle said this: surrender is the simple but profound wisdom of yielding to rather than opposing the flow of life. The only place where you can experience the flow of life is the now. So to surrender is to accept the present moment unconditionally and without reservation. It is to relinquish inner resistance to what is.
Right.
So even if it's not something you want right now, release your resistance, knowing whatever is best right now, and I'm wanting to experience more. But you can't just hate what is to get more to it, because the hate stops the flow.
It also steals from you whatever there is that you could benefit from having in the experience. I started to watch a movie a while back, and the movie was all the TVs now are 4K or 1080 DPI, means the high resolution. And this movie was being presented to me personally in a low resolution state. I thought, how can I watch this? How can I? And I'm sitting there for the first 5 minutes thinking, I can't believe they're showing this movie in 720 rather than 1080. What is wrong with this? And what I was doing was, of course, missing the movie. And then I realized, well, I can't change it. I can't do anything about it. I guess I'll just have to allow it to be. And within a few minutes, I'd forgotten it wasn't in high resolution anymore. See, what we do is we decide what the resolution should be for anything, and then if it's not that, we reject it entirely rather than saying, well, what is there here? What is so, and what is here there for me? It was an old movie. It didn't have to be in a high resolution, but I wanted it to be. How often do you want something to be to the point where you actually miss what is, and you miss what's available to you that's a gift that you could enjoy and appreciate?
Right, so I would like to tell a story now. And it's a story about a man who wanted more happiness in his life. He was just feeling miserable and
True story.
yeah, wanted to find some happiness. So he got the idea that if he lived a life of gratitude, he would be happier. So he was in the habit of, whenever he found spare change on the ground or whatnot, he would pick it up, and it would be found money, and he would start expressing gratitude for that. And the more he did that, the more coins and monies that he found. Sometimes it'd be money in his pockets out of the closet, but to him that was still found money. Sometimes it was an unexpected check in the mail. And so all that found money he would express gratitude for, and it made him happier. And then he thought, well, let me see if I can make some other people happy. And he started leaving a spare change on the sidewalk or on the counter or whatever, so other people could experience the joy of it. And he got such a kick out of that. He started doing things like paying for the person behind him in a toll booth to pass through, because they're so surprised. it's so much fun. Or paying for somebody behind you in a fast food line. So he found that making other people happy was really making him happy. And then he realized that the more he gave away, the more he got, the more it just circulated, and he started finding more money, unexpected money, the more he gave away. And then he started thinking, and he realized the whole purpose of this thing was not this giving money and gratitude. It was to be happier. That's what he had originally wanted, was to be happier. And so he found that the more he was in the flow of God's abundant life, the happier he was. So it shows you the power of gratitude and giving. So he just, he realized that it is his divine nature to give and to receive, and to be happy about that. So we can get so stuck in our ideas that we don't have enough, or we don't have as much as somebody else, that impedes the flow. Mm-hmm. So it's always a very important part of learning to have prosperity consciousness, to start giving, because you're stopping the flow of the good to you when you, well, I don't have enough money, I can't give it a bigger tip, and I can't spare any money here or there, so I've got to be careful with what I spend. That's impedance. And you will find, as you start giving more generously, even to yourself sometimes, mm-hmm. to allow yourself to order what you want on that restaurant menu instead of, oh, what's the cheapest thing on the menu that I can get by with? that you're opening up your prosperity consciousness and allowing that to flow. Let's see, I have another quote in here. I've got so many papers today, I can hardly keep track of them. I guess I wanted to make sure I knew what I was talking about. Deepak Chopra, got a quote of his about this circulation. He says, the universe operates through dynamic exchange. Giving and receiving are different aspects of the flow of energy in the universe. And in our willingness to give that which we seek, we keep the abundance of the universe circulating in our lives. Just what I said, only said by Deepak Chopra. So, and I think I want to close. How are we doing for time? Yeah, we're getting close. I have a wonderful quote by a Swami who sums it all up. Sums it all up. Swami Kriyananda. Swami Kriyananda says this, and we can discuss this further if we have time.
For an hour or two.
To attract abundance in your life, let me put my arm around you. See money as a flow of energy, not as a static quantity. See life in the same way, as a flowing river, not as a fixed pattern of behavior. Leave your ego on the bank and enter the stream of cosmic awareness. There are no limits to how much of life's abundance can be yours, if you will plunge into the divine current and swim there joyously.
I think it may sound like it's off the wall, but it actually isn't. I'm reminded of Mother Teresa telling people that she was ministering to Jesus in all of his many disguises.
Distressing disguises.
Yeah, distressing disguises. And that what was interesting to me about that is that she saw abundance where other people saw lack. She saw a gift where other people saw loss.
She saw an opportunity.
She sure did. And when you look at a situation and say this is an opportunity rather than a horror or an awful thing, it changes what you have as options for how you're going to deal with it. It changes how you feel. It changes the body chemistry. It changes your health and well-being.
Especially if people don't already know this, what she did is she was assigned as a young nun to work in India. I don't know what their mission was in particular, but what she noticed was that because of the caste system that was probably more strongly practiced at the time that she started there, the undesirables, which was the lowest caste, would be just left on the street to die.
Yeah.
The undesirables, the lowest caste. And everybody thought that was right and natural. You didn't do anything to help them. They were the untouchables. And she thought, this is ridiculous to have people dying on the streets. Mm-hmm. I can at least provide them a comfortable bed indoors where they can die in peace. And that's what she did. That's basically what she did. She gave them dignity in dying. And she didn't try to save them. They were often beyond any medical help that was available. She just brought them on the streets and loved them as she would Jesus had he been on the streets. Because, Jesus said, whatever you do to one of you, you do also to me. Because we are all one.
Right.
And so that's the way it works. And everybody's always been in awe of Mother Teresa because she just sees everyone as another potential Jesus and ministers.
She didn't see any part of life as untouchable.
No.
And the problem with having any part of life be untouchable is when you shut that part of your life out or off, you're shutting out lots more of that. And we don't want to do that. We want to be open to touching all of life and then deciding how we want to embrace it, how we want to have it be expressed through us.
And sometimes what you do doesn't even help, but that you attempted to help can be very appreciated.
Yeah.
Yesterday, I believe it was, or the day before, I was in the pharmacy trying to pick up a medication for Bob, and there was a man in front of me with dark sunglasses, very tall man, who was trying to get a prescription for folic acid. And the pharmacist explained to him, oh, well, that's not a prescription. That's over there in the supplements. And he said, "Where?" And so he said, "Over there." And he just points. Well, this is a very tall man, and they were evidently down on the first shelf or two, by your ankles.
And he was also a very old man.
He was old and he had sunglasses. So I said, let me go over and try to help him. So I went over to try to help him, and I couldn't see. I couldn't see. They had these big yellow sales tags all over. I couldn't read the bottles. And I said, I'm sorry, I can't help you either. And he said, well, thank you so much for trying. I appreciate that. And I went back in line, and somebody had gotten in front of me, but that was okay. And he ended up getting help from the pharmacist, who also had trouble finding it. I thought, this is so absurd to put all these supplements down by people's ankles when it's largely seniors who are looking for them. But so even if you're not effective, if you just attempt to help,
Right.
you're in the flow of life. You're not impeding the good. He really appreciated that somebody was willing to help him, and then the help did come.
But there are lots of circumstances in which this man would have been viewed by other people as an untouchable.
As a
He was
nuisance, yeah.
he was untouchable
He was
because
shouting,
of
he was
age,
unhappy, he
of
was,
his
yeah.
age, his appearance, his presentation, his demeanor, his manner. And when you treat life as something that's worth touching, then that life can touch you.
Right.
And we are often waiting for the opportunity for the right life to touch us, and we're sad and often empty inside because we haven't had enough of that life that we could have embraced touching us. So when you touch life, when you reach out, when you allow yourself to be comfortable with where you're rooted, where you allow yourself to flower and blossom wherever you are, suddenly the universe is a very different universe than it would be otherwise.
Indeed. So we invite you to allow the flow. Just allow it. You don't have to do anything. Just allow the flow to flow from you. It's all good. It's all God flowing through you. And don't impede it with resistance. Meaning, I can't stand this, or I hate this, or my life is in the pits. Don't ever think those things. Allow what is, and visualize and know the more, the greater is always a possibility in flowing from you to you. So shall we close with a prayer? Do we have time for a
Yeah, we
prayer?
sure do.
Let's do. So let's go within right now and let's know the truth of our being. And that truth is that we cannot be separated from God. We cannot be separated from our good. It is flowing always from us into our life, and we refuse to stop it with feelings anything of acceptance and even gratitude for what is.
Right here and right now, I allow myself to embrace where it is I am rooted. I allow myself to reach as high as I choose to, and to connect with all that is good and all that is love and all that is light, because it is within my nature to do so. And I am grateful that I have that nature, and that love and light and joy and prosperity are within me right here and right now.
And we give great thanks and say, and so it is. Let's stop recording, right?